Hello, guys. How's it going? Uh, Good morning, good afternoon from sunny but chilly Plattsburgh, New York. I hope you had a great weekend. And yes, we did it. Um, we have to cover our last two chapters, and we're done with our book. Pretty cool, right? um, I hope you've been enjoying this journey. I really hope so. So today, as always, I want to give you feedback about your last two lows, and actually, I don't have anything to say other than awesome job. And I will cover chapters 22 and chapter 23. So chapters 22, 23, and finish with that. Some of you are already asking about, the first draft. The drafts are there. So we have time to work on our submission about the project, the mock project you're supposed to do, and I will act as the ethics committee, and I will give more information with another video next week. But there are two documents on Moodle under the file FLO on top of our Moodle site, and also enough information for you to start in our syllabus, of course. Some of you have sent me emails. I have replied. I've also received some phone calls, which is great. People are really interested in getting into it. It makes me really happy. If you haven't started, there's still plenty of time. So please go ahead and see what you are required or expected to do. And yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about this chapter today. Next week, I'll make a more specific video, shorter, of course, about our FLO. All right? Okay, so chapter 22 demands of the peer review process. As we've said before, peer review increases the quality of the scientific work and published research. It helps the editors, it helps the publishers identify the most credible and the most valid work, and it's a process that is was supposed to be systematic and unbiased. Now, why is this so important? All right, so this is, as I said, a process, and this is a tool we have uh, figured out in order to just decrease bias, increase quality. Okay, it's been out there since the 18th century. It's not perfect, but it's the best we have, and I've said that before. Now, um, we cannot share scientific knowledge without peer review. Okay, so any blogs, fora, podcasts that you may read, listen to, or even make, right? They cannot be considered scientific knowledge because there's no peer review. Peer review ensures, as I said, that there are no claims that are invalid and not credible. There are no claims like that will reach the public. And another side, as you can see, peer review is, as we say in my profession, right? Publish or perish, meaning that it really affects my career. And I submitted my file 2 months ago for evaluation and for appointment and promotion, and really one of the criteria, is publishing. It's scholarship, which includes publishing. So it does affect people's careers as well. All right, so how does it work? So when you write your manuscript and your manuscript is ready, you have to ask yourself, okay, where do I submit it? And we've covered that kind of already. So it has to be a good fit from your side and from their side, right? And also, is the quality of my work close to the quality of the work that they have been publishing, and vice versa. So based on that, you select the journal. You may get an administrative reject or a desk reject. We talked about that before. I've got plenty of those. I'm not ashamed. uh, but the thing is, when you get a desk reject, your manuscript may still be good. It just wasn't a good fit. You didn't really investigate a lot. So um, sometimes, you take it, you fix the format, and you submit it to another journal. All right, no big deal. If you want to avoid desk rejection, administrative rejection, and I do it a lot of editors appreciate that. I also say an inquire email, right? And I asked them, I said, usually, we really think it's a good fit for your audience and so on and so forth. I give them a draft of our abstract, or of course the title, and some more information, and I wait for them to tell me if they would think it's a good idea to submit. They're not going to tell me if it's going to be accepted. It's just going to tell me, yeah, it looks like a good fit, submit it, and then we'll most likely send it out to reviews, right? Table 22.1 has a lot of reputable peer-reviewed journals with their impact factor. We talked about impact factor. We'll talk about it a little bit in a second again. Some of those impact factors in the table have changed because it's been a while since they published the book. As we said before, we need to read the instructions for the authors, a lot of resources in table 22.2. And once you have picked the most appropriate journals, and that's something that actually I'm doing all the time for the things that I'm writing. I just received an email from a co-author right now suggesting another journal we could submit the manuscript we're working on right now. Of course, if you have 2 or 3 or 4, you should aim for the best. Which one is the best? It depends. It depends on how you see it. A lot of times we'll go with the impact factor, right? And we said the impact factor is an average, the number of citations of each article of that journal for the past 2 years. So the higher, the better. But that's not the best way to see it, as we said before. Another index that our books throws in there, and you can find my own age index online. You can go to Google Scholar, put my name, and find my age index. It shows pretty much, let's say you have an age index of 3. That means that you have 3 publications that have been cited more than 3 times. It can be 103 times, it could be 4 times. It doesn't even matter. So maybe your first one is 6, 5, 4. So if your fourth one is 3 or 2 below, like so, the citation number is below the ranking number, then the above number 3 would be your age index, and that's a metric that shows the importance of the authors. Now, sometimes we think about it, and you want, if you have a really high age index, you want to submit something in a really high impact factor. But also we need to understand, like, how fast are they? Are they going to bring it back? What's the turnover like? 2 weeks, a month, 3 months? That's important for some people. I take it into consideration if I can find that information. What else? Length. Length is very important for me, especially if I have long. Right now, I'm choosing a journal from a reputable editor without an impact factor, because the audience is the audience I want to address, and they give me 10,000 words. Okay, so I could go to another with 7,500, but I can't take down the length of my manuscript that much. I've already taken down as much as possible. I can't. So a lot of things play a role in this. How many references? They accept 40, 50, 60. What if you want more? Do they have supplemental material, digital, online? But I can take some stuff out of the manuscript maybe, so I decrease the length and I put them in there as supplemental material. Those are important things for us when we try to communicate all that information. All right, so let's see it from the journal's perspective. So they receive a submission, right? We have managing director, editorial staff, full-time. They're going through very meticulous work to go over it and see if it's according to the guidelines. And if it is, it goes to the editor-in-chief, who's a big-time name. There can be two of them, and editor-in-chief, uh, his main job is pretty much find associate editors. And associate editors are based on some expertise of a sub area of the main subject. So I'm section editor, right, for psychology and behavior in the International Journal of Exercise Science. So everything that is under that subdiscipline, they send it to me. So the editor-in-chief sends it to me, and then my job is to find reviewers, find the appropriate people for whatever manuscript is submitted, and then usually we have two kinds of documents. One is goes from the reviewers to me, and one is something that the authors can see, right? So then I take all that information and I have to make a decision, right? And the decision can be accept, as we've said, reject. Those are the two ends of the same continuum, but in the middle we have accept with major revisions or accept with minor revisions. And we find 2 or 3 reviewers if we can. Sometimes you can even find 2 reviewers if something is really specific. And it's really, really hard. So we'll see how we can attack that issue in a little bit. But so the information from the reviewers comes to the associate editor or the section editor. I make my decision and it goes back to authors, right? Now, if the authors are notified that they can revise, so it's acceptable revision, they and accept that because they may say, no, we disagree, we don't want to. They have a specific timelines, usually 2 months. We just submitted a revised version of our manuscript. We had 2 months, we did it in a month. We worked a lot on it. Sometimes you need more, sometimes you need less to put in it. One side note that I want to make here is most of us, including myself, think that if it's accepted with major revisions, eventually will be accepted. Well, yes and no. Why? Because if you keep making the same mistakes, not addressing what the reviewer said or disagreeing for the most part with their suggestions and comments, then if you read like 4th, 5th revision and still the quality is not there, it is possible that it can get rejected, even if it was in the beginning accepted with major revisions. So when you send back, as we did, you send the revised manuscript. Sometimes they ask you to put a manuscript with track changes so they can find it too. So, and then definitely they will ask you for a point-by-point response to the reviewers. So usually you create a table. On the left, you put the responses and comments, and on the right, you address them, and you usually point out the page and the line, and you even may put in quotation the actual chains that you put, like page 122 line, page 22 line 430. You can see we changed this to this, so it looks like boom, and you put the quotation so they know exactly what you changed, how you addressed it. In the one that we submitted, there was one point that we disagreed, and we said we understand what you are saying. We did it for this reason. We respectfully would like to keep it this way. Okay, it's not that bad if you have a different opinion in some of them. When it gets accepted, eventually you get the final copy and check figures, numbers, like typos, if you want to change anything before it's in press. And you can see in figure 22.1 examples of the process. All right, let's see what you can do about that process and how you can successfully navigate. We need, first of all, to have something of high value. We talked about that before, right? And then actually present it accordingly. You can have something of high value and not really write the right way or not present it as well as you could. And that's not good, right? When you have something really good in your hands. We have already covered the organizational structure of VMS, so I'm not going to go over that again. But what I would like to say here is sometimes I said you can't even find reviewers, right? So some journals will ask you to recommend reviewers. Or recommend people that you think they shouldn't review your paper, your manuscript, because there's bias, right? So sometimes you do that. They ask you 2, 3, 4, 5 names to make it easier for them. In the journal that I am the editor, they have to recommend. In another manuscript that we submitted a month ago, we actually had to recommend an editor. So you go into those section editors, the associate editors, and you find the one that you think is appropriate, because some journals are huge or they have a very diverse list of topics that you can submit. So they have a lot of editors in there. So I found 3 and I recommended 3, and I'm still waiting for one of them to, it's been a month and I just checked today, and I'm still waiting for one editor to actually accept it so they can send out to reviewers. Now, how does a reviewer, and I've been a reviewer for many journals, ad hoc reviewer or permanent reviewer, right? What do we do? How do we work? Each journal has specific instructions for the reviewers, and they will tell you what you're looking for. There are specific forms. Maybe there's a point system. Usually you give general comments, and then you go into specific comments with lines and everything. You may have to ask some questions, ask predetermined questions from the journal um, concerning the quality or the language or bias or whatever they want to ask you. And of course, you have to end with an overall recommendation. Meaning, do I recommend rejection? Do I recommend acceptance with major revisions? And so on and so forth. Now, if you as an author get the opportunity to revise, that's always very exciting, right? It's way better than getting a reject email. You have to be very meticulous, and you have to address everything within the time period that they give you, right? You need for more, you can ask for more. Like, for example, now they tell you, due to unprecedented circumstances, if you need more time, let us know. As I said before, you have the track changes, you have the revised manuscript, review a letter, and the point-by-point response. Now, again, as I said before, how do you handle rejection? It's hard for me personally. It's hard, especially when I know I put a lot of work into it. It's really hard. And the best journals, if you want to go for the best journals, 70-80% of the manuscripts that I submit are rejected. They're looking for the top of the top. So if it gets rejected, you can ask for clarification, right? Why? So you can get better, right? And also, the reviewers, even when they suggest rejection, they give you a lot of information you can take, right? And you can use it, make it better, and resubmit it to another journal. Can you appeal? Yes. I have appealed once, and if you see my article in Current Psychology, it was accepted with major revisions, and then we did the revision, and then it got rejected, and I was like, why? Anyway, I appealed it, and they accepted. The editor accepted my request, and it got back into from rejected to accepted with revisions. So if you can make a point, go ahead and make your point. You have nothing to lose if it's rejected, right? Now, what happens if you serve as a peer reviewer? It's an honor. It's service to the profession, right? And you definitely learn, although you spend a lot of time, you learn. And critical thinking is a skill, right? We're not just having our opinion and we're just trying to dismiss each other's work. No, we're all in the same team. Reviewer and authors in the same team, trying to increase the quality of the manuscript before it goes out. That's how you should see it, right? So there's not a lot of formal training. It depends on your experience as a reviewer. And if any of you is interested in psychology and behavior and wants to become a reviewer in my journal, in the journal I'm an editor, please go ahead and send me an email. I would be glad to see if we can make this work. I can tell you for sure that is something that has helped students with their applications there are other grad students with applications to grad programs because it shows that they provide service and they have enough knowledge on the topic, right? Now, again, peer review is essential for scientific knowledge and publishing. No matter how you see it from the point of the reviewer, the editor-in-chief, the author, we're playing a role in that review process. It's not perfect, but it is there to help us decrease bias and increase quality of scientific knowledge, right? That is different. Scientific knowledge, not any other knowledge at all. All right, one more chapter. Last chapter, chapter 23, has to do with the science buzz, right? All right, that's an interesting chapter. But this is something that it's true and it's reality. Let's see what I'm talking about. So, of course, as a scientist, you started being curious about something, you went into some kind of investigation that leads you into your discoveries, and then you have to disseminate those discoveries to your colleagues, but also to the general public. Um, some scientists are a little bit outside their comfort zone when they have to disseminate the results, their results, their work to general public. Uh, we'll see why, and we'll see what we can do about that, because it has the information one way or the other. It has to reach the general public. Okay, so we need to think to whom we're sharing our work, through which medium, how to present it. And in that whole process, we'll talk about generalism a little bit, right? Okay, so who would be interested? Let's talk about audiences. Who would be interested in your work? What's their level of understanding? And you have a question and you're allowed about that, right? What is their opinions about the subject? And which channel are all these people, that demographic is mainly with? So in our book, you see that there are a ton of different audiences out there, and a cool exercise and a fun exercise, creating an avatar, right? So a lot of times I want coaches or strength and conditioning coaches in a lot of my examples to read my research, and I'm thinking about some specific ones. You know, with that guy or with that woman be able to understand my research if I write it this way, or they're going to stop reading after 2 paragraphs. How can I engage them? How can I make it appealing? How can I motivate them to actually read my stuff? Right? So, I don't know. Let's say you're writing your FLO. You need to think, of course, my level of everything and if I can understand it, right? And that's what you should write. You should know your audience. You should know your audience, definitely. Channels, print, broadcast, social media, right? A lot of many others, all the way to mobile platforms and social media. Facebook is huge. There's another question in your LO about that. YouTube is huge, and you can see more in figure 23.1. Things things have changed, and things have changed with this, right? So smartphones have changed the game, because everybody not only can have access to material like that, but can produce their own material, right? Pick it up, make a video, boom. Okay, this is an example right now, YouTube, right, of me creating my own material. Everybody can create material. Let's talk a little bit about the journalists. Journalists are coming, from formal training. They are professionals, and they go to school for that, and they're not your next door blogger. No offense, right? They have some very formal training. However, when you compare a scientist to a journalist, there are a lot of differences if they would like to say the same story. Me, I would like to include references to unveil all aspects of the story. Journalist right now, um, on the contrary, he or she would try to be more concise, write in a way more simplified way, an approachable style, and of course include visual. And again, that's another question in your law about visual appeal nowadays. Now, when we're trying to convey a message, the science could really collaborate with a journalist. Although they're different, they should understand each other's goals and help each other understand the significance of their work and move from there. Uh, we are scientists and we like using scientific terms, jargon, as our book describes it, but that's not very helpful with general population, as you understand. Personal example, I started writing in Medium, right? I put my first story up there in Medium. And I really struggled to explain my science, but also keep it simple and short and visual. So you can go online and find it on Medium if you look up for my name. It's a post I made for about mental toughness. So there is a constant war between hyper specialization and layman terms. Right? How can you play this game and create something that doesn't oversimplify what you want to say, but also is accessible and understandable to the general public? Writing science for an audience that's not your peers, it's a skill. It takes time, and I can say definitely that scientists, we can learn and we can take notes from uh, people in journalism or public relations, how to be short but also clear and precise. And while we're doing that, we need always to remember that we have to focus on the true story than on the good story. So our job is to accurately communicate for the public interest. So the true story is more important than a good story. If you can have both, I'll be great. You saw in our book, The Responsible Health Reporting, that has 10 criteria from adequately discuss the cost of the intervention, which again is something in your law, to um, appearance of relying solely on a news release. But when you get interviewed by journalists, and for me again, for example, here they come a lot of times from cardinal points, right? And they're undergrad students, and I'm trying to convey or answer the questions, and a lot of times it hasn't gone very well because they oversimplify things, or they don't understand what I'm explaining, and that's mostly on me, right? I should have asked, did you understand what I said? Can you read it back to me? We need to make sure to ask the journalist about how the story will come out, because those stories, once they go online, they're there forever, right? If you have to interview for TV, okay, again, you have a question here below. Most visual medium. You have to prepare, you have to have notes, you have to dress accordingly, you have to look at the host, and so on and so forth. It's way different than just writing or making a podcast, and so on and so forth. That was it for chapter 23. I want to make sure you understand that it is our duty to disseminate the results all the way to the public. general public. And nowadays we have a lot of ways to do it. So after you actually publish something, or after you can actually take it, break it down, simplify it, create an avatar in your head, and simplify it in a way that more people can have access to that information, because they should have access. The information has to reach all the way down, and that's our beauty. You can use all the media. We have so much access, right? And you can push your research out to more and more and more people. That's all from Let's Break for today. I will be uploading this video in a sec. Let me know if you need anything. Hope you have an awesome week. In the meantime, lift intentionally, not habitually. Bye, guys.